Hello. Hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yeah, sir, you're audible.
So good evening, everyone. I listened to the introduction part and I realized that there are a lot of family students over here. And being a family, I feel everybody is a bit of skeptical that what to do after family. So how many of you agree with me? So just give me a thumbs up so that I can get an idea about that. So meanwhile, you know, the biggest challenge what family people experience in India is lack of understanding about the career opportunities, and that is the biggest reason that they are being skeptical that what to do, what not to do. So, and why this is happening? The main cause why this is happening is that first thing, India was never prepared for a course like family, which is an extraordinary course where you'll get to learn so many things. But due to the healthcare circumstances and due to the healthcare scenario in India, so since the healthcare is not covered under, complete healthcare is not covered under government, and majority of the healthcare is covered under the private practice. So that is the biggest challenge that the clinical aspects of PharmD cannot be implemented thoroughly across the country. But that shouldn't disappoint the PharmD students because there are multiple opportunities open in the market in various domains. There are numerous domains where they need the people with the skill set, people with the knowledge, what family people are gaining. So there are numerous opportunities. So only the biggest thing that is affecting in exploring those opportunities are that the educational institute, the faculty members themselves, they haven't explored these domains and they are not acclimatized with the keywords that they have to use to explore these jobs. So I hope that this platform, since you will be meeting with a lot of people from various domains, so this domain will help you a lot in exploring the potential pathways or the potential career opportunities to understand in which all areas you can find job opportunities. So this is about the basic, overview about the family and the career opportunities. So myself, so they have given the introduction. So I'm Dr. Abhimanyu Parashar. I was from the first batch of PharmD, that is from 2008 to 2014, and I completed my PharmD from JSS College of Pharmacy in Mysore, followed by which, uh, sorry to interrupt, but if people can mute themselves, it will be easy for me to speak. Thank you. So, post that, I completed my PhD. I was the first person across the country who took the risk of completing PhD after PharmD. And but you know, God's grace, I was able to get a scholarship also. I was the first person in India being PharmD to crack GPAT and get a scholarship and a senior research fellowship from Department of Science and Technology of 30 lakhs rupees. And I established Poison Information Center in JSS Hospital, Mysore. So I started my journey with that. Then I moved into the academia. So I served as an assistant professor, but serving it over a period of 3 years, I felt no good is happening to family. So eventually I ended up in the industry, and today I'm placed in world's best company, that is number one company in medical devices, especially in ophthalmology. So that is Alcon Laboratories. So in Alcon Laboratories, I'm a part of clinical evaluation team. So now let me give you an overview that what is clinical evaluation and what are my roles and responsibilities and how family can contribute into the medical device industry also, because being a family, we usually revolve around the fact that the drugs and the therapeutic areas, but there is a vast industry over there. That industry is medical device industry. So it's a very vast industry, and and it's a forbidden industry because of lack of understanding and lack of knowledge. People usually don't get into the medical device things. They just stick to the therapeutic area. So you must be hearing about companies like Novartis, Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, AstraZeneca, etc., etc. But how many of you have heard about Alcon, Stryker? So these are the companies. They are leading medical device manufacturers, and there is a hell lot of opportunity prevailing in the medical device sector. And with family background, there will be a lot of people who can get job opportunities over there as well. So I'll be just sharing my screen. Please let me know if my screen is visible or not.
Yeah, sir, we can see your screen.
So my screen. So can you see the slides?
Yeah, sir.
Sure. So first we need to understand the basic definition of medical device. So what is a medical device? In order to get acclimatized to what we usually do, so try to understand what are the medical devices. So basically these are the instruments or machines or anything that can be used for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treating, or alleviate any kind of medical condition. Okay. So even they range from, you know, basic amenity at our home, that is thermometer. So to the complex mechanism like pacemaker, which will place it during, if a person is suffering from conditions like arrhythmias. Okay. So there we'll use the medical devices. So even thermometer is a medical device and even a pacemaker is a medical device. And you can just determine, and even a wheelchair, that is also a medical device. Okay. So you will get so many medical devices in the market, but you never try to understand that what are the regulatory processes involved in the medical device. Okay, because we always, being a family, we always revolve around the drugs areas. Okay. So what is clinical evaluation? So clinical evaluation is nothing. Clinical evaluation is just like preparing a document for the regulatory purpose, and it's a living document. That means it needs to be updated continuously. Okay. So why we are updating it continuously? To generate, collect, appraise, and analyze, as well as assess the clinical data pertaining to the device. And why we are doing that? So just like in drugs, we are doing monitoring like pharmacovigilance. So in the device that is called as medical devices, we call it as a materiovigilance. Okay. So basically what we are doing is we are trying to establish the clinical performance and the safety of the device. But then how the materiovigilance is different from clinical evaluation. So materiovigilance is something. So in the drug therapy, we basically do the clinical trials, right? So in the clinical trials, once the clinical trials are done, so then the drug will be introduced into the market, right? So before introducing a clinical device into the market, medical device into the market, we have to generate a clinical evaluation report. Whereas pharmacovigilance or the post-marketing surveillance comes once the device is into the market and then it is being studied. Okay. So before its launch, before its marketing, whatever the documentation we are doing, that is called as clinical evaluation. And the clinical evaluation needs to be, it's a continuous process and we need to do it on the regular basis. Okay. And the most important component of the clinical evaluation is a clinical evaluation report. So as a clinical literature review specialist, I'm the person who's responsible for drafting and reviewing the clinical evaluation reports. And in the clinical evaluation report also, there are a lot many components, and literature search reports is one of the foremost and the backbone of a clinical evaluation report. So being a clinical literature review specialist, I'm responsible for that. So the rest of the things we'll be discussing ahead. So the medical devices are classified into different classes. based on the risk they pose to the patient and level of regulatory control required to ensure the safety and effectiveness. So basically what we are doing, so in drugs, we usually talk about, say that the drugs have been regulated by various schedules as per the, if you would have studied in jurisprudence. So there are various schedules, Schedule X, Schedule H. So the medical device, they will be regulated based on the... Hello? I'm audible?
Yeah, sir, you're audible. Sorry for the distraction, sir.
Sure. So medical devices, basically, they are classified into 4 classes, okay, depending on the risk they pose to the patient. Okay. So they can be high risk devices, medium risk devices, medium to high risk devices, low to medium risk devices, and low risk devices. So low risk devices, you'll be seeing these devices a lot in your home, in the clinics, in your surrounding. So the devices like bandages, wheelchairs, stethoscopes. So these are the devices that do thermometers, that they don't pose any kind of risk. Means we can't say that they don't pose any kind of risk, but we have to stick to the term that they are they are low risk devices. Okay. Same thing if the class 2A devices, which poses more low to medium risk. So now you push, and the examples are surgical gloves, dental fillings, ultrasound equipments. So now you are pushing, there might be a question in your mind that how surgical gloves can pose a risk to the patient. Can anyone answer that question? Right or wrong? It doesn't matter. It's okay. You can try. Anyone? Okay, let's go ahead. So surgical gloves, they are potential. They can be, there might be a risk that while performing the surgery, surgical gloves may be contaminated, and that contamination can cause any kind of infection to the patient who's being operated. So though they are not, posing a significant threat, but once a threat is being posed, so you have to take serious measures to prevent that. That's why they are classified as a class 2A device. Then talking about class 2B device, which pose medium to high risk. So we have ventilators, infusion pumps, bone fixation plates. So you must have seen that after a fracture, so sometimes the fracture will be so significant that they have to put nails and plates into the bone or to fix the bone. So those devices will fall into the category of class 2B devices. And the most high risk devices are class 3 devices, and they include heart valves, pacemakers, and implantable defibrillators. So this is how the medical devices are classified. So the clinical evaluation, so it's conducted as an ongoing process throughout the life cycle of a medical device. That I have told you earlier also. And why we are doing that? We are doing that to identify the clinical data that needs to be generated for the market access, okay, to launch the device in the market. So mandatory for initial CE marketing. So you must have seen, if you'll see any bottle or if you'll see any thermometer, so there will be a CE symbol on any medical device you will be buying. So CE stands for Confirmatory European. So CE, that tag will be given once that particular device is marketed. It is into the market. Then only you will get that CE mark. So for getting that CE mark, clinical evaluation is must. Without clinical evaluation reports, you will not get the CE mark. Okay. So it must be actively updated after placing the device on the market. And how frequently these things should be updated, how frequently you should be writing a clinical evaluation report. So for class 3 and class 2B, that is high risk device and medium to high-risk devices, you have to write it every year. We have to collect the data every year, and then we have to write the clinical evaluation report. For class 2A devices, we have to write it every 2 years. That is low to medium risk. And for the class 1 devices, which are low risk devices, we have to write clinical evaluation report once in every 5 years. So this is the life cycle management of clinical evaluation reports. So it is also performed, updated upon the receipt of new information from the post-marketing surveillance. Now, once the device is in the market, so apart from the clinical literature, what you are getting, the device will also be, you'll be getting the spontaneous data, that is pharmacovigilance data for that particular device. So if any new risk is observed for that particular device, in such scenario also, you will be performing the clinical evaluation. So that is an additional example when you will be performing clinical evaluation. So stages in performing the clinical evaluation. So if you look at this pie chart over here, so we have 5 stages total. Okay. So, sorry, 4 stages. And initially what we'll do, we'll plan. So plan is we have to develop a clinical evaluation plan, that what we will be doing, what kind of data we will be extracting, for how long for which particular period we have to extract the information. So we have to give a plan for everything, and a clinical evaluation specialist or a clinical literature review specialist, they have to create or draft this plan, and we have to send it to the stakeholders that, okay, this is the plan, this is how we will be performing the clinical evaluation. So stage 1 comes where we'll be identifying the pertinent data, that what kind of data we have to look into. Are we looking into the only uh, level 1 studies? So level 1 studies will inculcate systematic reviews, meta-analysis, and blinded or masked randomized control trials. So those will be the level 1 studies. Level 2 studies will compromise of unmasked randomized control trials or any kind of prospective control study. Stop me if you have any question. Stop me if you have any doubt. Okay. Stop me if I'm being unclear on any point, or you need a clarification on any point. So level 2 of evidence, or level of evidence, what we call it, it comprises of unmasked clinical trials, randomized control trials, or controlled prospective controlled studies. Level 3 evidence consists of what do you say, your retrospective controlled study. Controlled study means where we have a control group. There is a case group and a control group. That means a study should be comparative study. Then only we'll categorize into level 1 or level, what do you say? If it is a retrospective controlled study, it will be level 3. If it is a prospective controlled study, it will be level 2. And if it is a masked prospective controlled study, it will be level 1. Level 4 consists of uncontrolled study, the studies which do not have a comparative group. For example, let's take an example of a drug. For example, I think everyone must be familiar with sitagliptin. Okay, so sitagliptin, if you are just testing sitagliptin alone for a period of say 6 months, prospectively, so that will be prospective uncontrolled study. Okay, but if you are comparing sitagliptin with some other drug, example, sitagliptin versus liraglutide. Okay, so you are comparing that drug with another drug, so that becomes a controlled study. The level 5 evidence consists of case reports, case series, etc., etc. So that's what in stage 2 we'll be identifying that what kind of literature or what kind of data we are focusing on. Next comes the stage 2, that is data appraisal. So once we have identified the articles, we have identified the literature from where we are extracting the information, we need to appraise the articles. Appraise the articles. So there is an organization under medical device regulation itself. that is INDRF. So INDRF has given us a criteria that you have to appraise the articles based on these parameters. So we'll be looking for whether that article contains our device or not, whether that article contains that proper indication that we want to study, whether that article is talking about a particular patient population that we are targeting. Then, apart from that, all those things we also need to look into what is the follow-up period of the study. We need to look how, if a clinical literature is there, article is there. So we have to look whether the article is drafted in a proper way, whether there are any kind of errors in reporting, whether the study structure is correct or not. So in PharmD language or in research language, you will say critical analysis of literature. So I think you must be familiar with this word, critical appraisal of the literature or critical analysis of the literature. So that is the function that we are going to do in the stage 2. The stage 3 consists of data analysis. So what we'll be doing, we will be provided with predefined safety and performance parameters that we need to extract data for these particular parameters. And based on those parameters, we'll be extracting data out of 100 articles at a time or 150 articles at a time. Okay. And then we will be performing the data analysis. We need to establish a limit. Okay. And once we have all the data, once we have the critical appraisal of the literature, then we'll be incorporating that whole data, and that whole data set will be called as LSR, that is Literature Search Report. So basically, my primary role is to conduct systematic literature review. So once that systematic literature review is completed, so I'll be generating a literature search report. So once that literature search report is generated, that literature search report will be incorporated into the CER, that is a clinical evaluation report. So that's why I said that literature search report is the backbone of the clinical evaluation report. It is the foremost important component of clinical evaluation report. So without literature search report, clinical evaluation report is nothing. So that's how a PharmD can contribute into, controlling the medical device safety and performance parameters. So clinical evaluation teams, roles and responsibilities. So in depth, I have just explained to you the process, but still, I'll just read the slides along so that you can have a better clarity on what I have said just prior to in the prior slide. So responsibilities consist of establishing and updating the clinical evaluation plan, which was phase 0, which shall include at least following. So an identification of journal safety and performance requirements. So what I told you that we'll have a list of predetermined safety and performance outcomes. So we need to have that list. We need to identify what all parameters we are looking at, or essential requirements that require to support the relevant clinical data. And if a device is like just like a thermometer, so in that scenario, we need to have a supporting evidence so that what kind of clinical literature data we need. Intended purpose of the device. We need to know that what is that device particularly used for. We need to know the intended purpose of the device. That means we need to know what is the indication of the device. Okay. The intended patient population, this point I have already told you whether the device is being used in adult population, geriatric population, pediatric population, or pregnant population. So depending on the intended purpose, that population will be defined. So if intended purpose say that device has to be used for adult population only, if that is stated in the IUD, that is intended purpose document will have. So if an article states that we use this device in pediatric population, So we will be appraising that article as an off-label indication. Off-label indication means that the device was supposed to be used in adult population. However, we are using that device into pediatric population. So that during the appraisal time, that article will be downgraded as a off-label article. The methods to be used for examination of qualitative or quantitative aspects of clinical safety with reference to determination of residual risk, acceptability of the benefit risk ratio. Then we need to extract the information. So basically, we are talking about what kind of information we have to extract from safety parameters point of view also, and from performance parameter points of view also, so that we should be able to justify that the benefits of the device always outweigh the risk associated with that device. Clinical development plan indicating progression from exploratory investigation to confirmatory investigation and a reference to the post-market clinical follow-up plan. So basically what we are doing, we'll have the evidence also that, okay, these are the, clinical and safety performance parameter that we have received from the post-marketing surveillance reports. So we have to match the data what we are getting with the post-marketing surveillance plans also, that our data are aligning. Okay. So all this information we have to provide in the plan or the protocol what we'll be preparing. So clinical evaluation. So second role comes. So once we have prepared the protocol, so then we'll be identifying all the existing data sources. Okay, that what kind of data we are extracting from what kind of articles, whether we are incorporating case reports, whether we have to look into only mass clinical trials or any kind of controlled study. So that we'll be evaluating. Define the clinical evaluation review period. Now, initially I told you that each device has a life cycle. For example, class 3 and 2B devices, they have needs to be updated every year. So for example, if I have written a CER from 2015 till 2024, so next year onwards, I will be writing the CER only for the gap period, that is 2024 to 2025. So we need to identify that from how long we need to write the clinical evaluation report, and ensures the equivalence data fulfilled with the equivalence requirement. So apart from the safety and performance literature search reports, we also need to write the state-of-the-art literature search reports also. The state of these are the two different documents that we'll be writing. So one document we'll be writing about safety and performance literature search reports. We'll write on our own device, our own company device. Okay. And state of the art literature search report, we will be writing on the competitor device. For example, if a company is manufacturing a thermometer, or not, let's not say thermometer, I'll just give you an example. If the Alcon, it manufactures intraocular lenses during the cataract surgery. So after the cataract surgery, we'll be replacing the intraocular lens, the existing intraocular lens with the artificial lens. Okay. So our key competitors are Johnson and Johnson, Zeiss, etc. Okay. So instead of the art literature search report, we have to talk about that what are the safety and performance outcomes that we are getting from a Johnson and Johnson device or Carl Zeiss device, etc., etc. So n number of companies will be there, and we have to compare our data with their data to establish that our device is equivalent or better than the other devices which are existing in the market. So basically, a clinical literature review specialist, they'll be writing two kinds of LSR. One is safety and performance LSR. Another thing is SOTA, that is state of the art literature search report. So any doubts till now? So far, if there are no doubts, we can go ahead. If you have any doubt, you can just ask me the question. I'll be happy to answer. Please be open up to the question. So it will be something, it is something a new learning for you, and it will be opening a new domain of career for you guys, because family are very crucial in performing all this stuff. So no questions? Shall I proceed further? So yes, this thing we have already discussed, that what kind of data and what kind of literature we are looking into, and the manufacturer head documents will include the pre and post marketing data. Okay, so identification of all existing data sources. So this also we have discussed. So I have discussed about the literature search report, where we are talking about the safety and performance parameters, and I also discussed about the SOTA reviews, that is state of the art literature search report. So this point also I have covered. So any questions over here? Yes, please tell me. I'm happy to answer. Hello, I'm audible?
Yeah, sir, you are.
So yeah, you guys are welcome to for any kind of questions you have. So no questions? So fine. If you guys have no questions, so I'll just give you one last briefing, that being family, don't be scared. Okay, it's a very good course. Always try to, always keep your mind open for learning new things, searching out for new opportunities. There is a whole lot of market open, which is providing jobs to family people. Okay, but one advice also I want to give to everyone who have done family, that if you guys, want to achieve something in your life, okay, so you need to stop comparing yourself with doctors first thing. Okay. MBBS doctors. See, they have a different profile. We do have a different profile. Okay. The profile we have is, we are into allied healthcare sciences. Okay. We are not directly into healthcare sciences. Okay. We need to understand this thing, and we need to accept that thing. Okay. PharmD is just a second. I have a question over here. So it's a very good question. So, sir, do we have any softwares for evaluating the clinical literatures like that? So, since we are dealing with a lot of information, yes. So for example, when we'll be, that's a very good question. So, who asked that question? Kudos to that person. Okay, yeah, great question. So, yes, we do have softwares, because see, when we'll do the clinical evaluation, uh, we have to sometimes do clinical evaluation from, you know the time the device was launched. So for example, if a device was manufactured and launched in market since 2008, so we need to extract the articles from 2008 onwards. And we are humans, we cannot, simply start downloading those articles and, start reviewing those articles if there are more than 1000 articles. Okay, even we will have targets that, okay, we have to complete this project in this much duration. It can be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on the number of articles we are getting. So yes, we do have a lot of softwares, but one of the most common software that we use over here is Distiller. Okay, apart from Distiller, so it's a very expensive software. Okay, so an individual for buying, individual cannot buy that software, but yes, for literature review purpose, so in academia or for writing your thesis, or while you're writing your research papers, so the software what we use for conducting the systematic literature reviews, so usually we'll stick to Mendeley. I think everyone has heard about the software. Just give me a thumbs up if you know about the software. Mendeley. Second one is EndNote. Okay. So in the research domain and in the academic domain, so we usually stick to these two softwares, Mendeley and EndNote. But when you go to the industry, we usually go with the distiller. So distiller is not accessible to everyone. So you have to, it's a subscription-based software and it costs a lot of money. So in millions, basically. So that is what. So where I was, so yeah. So that's a very good question. So apart from that, I just want to suggest you that, always keep yourself open to learning new things. Okay. And never be disappointed. Never compare yourself to the doctors. They have a different role to play. We have a different role to play. However, the role for which they bought this course in India, uh, unfortunately, that role we cannot play because in India, the healthcare is governed by, healthcare is taken care by, it's under the control of private organizations. Okay. So we need to make sure that we stick to our roles and responsibilities and do the best you can, learn the best you can, try to learn as many new things you can, whether it is data science or whether it is artificial intelligence, whether it's NAC accreditation. So yes, are there any people over here who are interested in actually interested in clinical pharmacy background or pursue their career as a clinical pharmacist? Just give me thumbs up if there are any people who want to pursue their career since they are so enthusiastic. Okay, there are. So this reality also I tell you that in India, the actual role of clinical pharmacist, see, there are hospitals, there are corporate hospitals uh, who will hire clinical pharmacists. Okay, but the roles and responsibility of a clinical pharmacist in those corporate hospitals will be different from what roles you have been you're being you have studied or you're being taught about. So for example, if you are looking out for medication errors, so or you're looking out for drug interactions, so these kind of roles are not in the corporate hospital as a clinical pharmacist. However, corporate hospital hire clinical pharmacists, they pay them also a lot, but not for this thing. They are more into the administrative purpose. So, for example, nowadays meditourism is very common in India. Okay, and because in India healthcare system is quite cheap compared to Western countries. So the people who cannot afford major surgeries in Western countries, so they will visit India. Okay, so corporate hospitals requires NABH accreditation. Okay. And for NABH accreditation, they require clinical pharmacists. So here, the role of clinical pharmacists in hospitals or corporate hospital, it becomes more of administrative rather than into the clinical side. So I'll suggest the organizer of this conference that if you could, get any speaker who is into this domain. So that will be extremely helpful for the people who want to pursue their careers in clinical pharmacy domain, because that will give them a real world, scenario of actually what are the roles and responsibility of clinical pharmacists in corporate hospitals like Fortis, Max, okay, and Medanta, etc., etc. So that will give them a real life picture, basically. So that will be extremely helpful for them. So with this, I'll finish my presentation. So I'll just wait for another couple of minutes. So if you have any questions, please throw the questions to me so that